We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Meseches Yevamos. This is Yevamos Daf 78b. On the previous Amud, the Gemara just inferred that according to Rabbi Yochanan, in a standard situation, you're going to follow the father in terms of the lineage. And so the Gemara's question was, how could it be that Rava says that, let's say you have a Goya who's Me'uberes, she's a non-Jewish woman and she's pregnant and she converts. So we said over there that the child does not need, the baby does not need to convert because it's as if he's already converted. That sounds like he follows the mother. And the Gemara said, well, maybe you will suggest that the chatzitza over here, it's as if the fetus himself, it's as if he actually immersed in the mikveh, because the chatzitza doesn't count. Because again, on a doraisa level, if it's something you're not makbid on, it doesn't count. But the Gemara now says you can't say that. V'amar Rav Kahana, but Rav Kahana said, Lo shanu elo ruba, when we say it doesn't count on a doraisa level, the chatzitza, that's only if it's majority. Aval kulo, but if there's an entire chatzitza, like in this case, the fetus is completely separated from the water of the mikveh. So chotzet, so even on a doraisa level, there would be considered a chatzitza. So again, this fetus has not been in the mikveh, so it seems to be that it's just following the status of the mother. And the Gemara says, no, Shani Uber, it's different by a fetus, Dahainu Revise, because that's part of its normal growth, and therefore even the entire thing is not going to be a chatzitza. Could be the reason why the fetus does not need a conversion, does not need to go into the mikveh when it is born, is because it's already considered to have gone in the mikveh. Rashi over here says, V'amar Avkahana Aval Kula Chutz, it's Avagav Delo Makbid, even though you're not makbid on that amount. V'hacha Kula Hu Mechusa, and over here, the entire thing is mechusa, so therefore again it should be a chatzitza, and the answer was, Dahainu Revise V'lav Chatzitza. That's the normal way it grows, and therefore it's not considered a chatzitza. And the Gemara continues, Kiyasa Ravina Am Rabbi Yochanan. When Ravina came, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Be'umos holach achar hazachar. When it comes to the other nations of the world, so then we follow the male. Nisgairu, but if they convert, holach achar pogam shebishnehem. So then we follow whatever is the most blemished lineage, so to speak, of the two of them. Rashi over here says, Be'umos b'sheva umos linyan lo sechaya kol neshama. In the halacha of the Zion umos, where we say you're not allowed to allow them to remain alive, there you follow the males in order to determine if they're from the Sheva Umos, as we will explain later on. But if they convert, in terms of lineage, you follow the lower one of them, as we will explain. And so the Gemara now explains, but umos halach achar hazachar. Again, we said by the Zion umos you follow the males. Kedetani, as we learned in a brayso, minayin leechad min haumos shabo al hakananis. How do you know? Let's say one of the other nations, has relations with a Cananis, v'holid ben, and then gives birth to a son. Sha'ato rashoy liknoso be'evid. So that child, you're allowed to purchase him as an evid. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, v'gam mibnei hatoshavim hagorim imachem mehem tiknu. It says also from those who live with you, from the bnei hatoshavim, you're allowed to buy from them. Rashi over here explains, le'echad min ha'umos she'eno mishiva umos. In other words, this case over here is that the father is not from the Zion umos, ve'eno bechlal lo sechaya kol neshama. He's not part of the category of the pasuk that you can't let them remain alive. Shata rashoy liknoso be'evid. So in other words, that child follows the father is not Zion umos, meaning you can purchase him as an evid. V'yatam mitzuva l'hami, so you don't have to kill that individual. The shadin anlei basar avua, because again you follow the father. And how do you know that? Talmud lomer mibnei Toshavim means Shabo May Umos Achem. Toshavim are people that come from other nations. V'nasu Avosam Toshavim b'Mekomchem, and then those fathers who came from other places, they're residing in your area. And so therefore, again, that's how we know from that pasuk, Mehem Tiknu, that says you're allowed to follow the father. And so then it continues, Now what about the other way around? What if it would be one of the Canaanim, meaning the male Canaani, has relations with somebody who's not one of the Zion Umos, and they have a son, so I might think that in such a situation you also can purchase that child as an Evid. Talmud Lomer Asher Holidu Bi'artzechem. It says that they're born in your lands. Min hanoladim Bi'artzechem. It has to be born in your lands. V'lo min hagarim Bi'artzechem, and not from those who dwell in your lands. Rashi over here says Min hanoladim Bi'artzechem, meaning to say She'imo Me'artzechem, that his mother is from your land. V'yoldaso Sham, and then the child was born there. V'lo min hagarim Bi'artzechem, not those who dwell in your land, meaning Shenolad b'makom acher, that he was born somewhere else. She'imo min Sharumos, the mother is from other nations. V'yachakach and now he's coming to live by his father in your land. And Rashi explains, Derech Isha Lios b'Mekom, it's the way of the woman to stay in her place. V'derech Ish Legalos, and it's the way of the husband or the man to exile himself to go somewhere else. to somewhere else. Hilkach hanoladim ba'aretz. Therefore, the idea is as follows: those who are born in your land, vaday imo mishiva umos. So then you know his mother is from the shiva umos, and like we said, if the mother is from the shiva umos, so you're allowed to purchase him as an eved because we say he follows the father. He's not one of the shiva umos. Aval hanoladim b'makom acher. But if the child is born somewhere else, vaday imo misharumos, and then the mother is certainly from the other nations, and so again, therefore, the father's a Kanani. There, it's going to be a problem to purchase as an eved because it's lo sechaya kol neshama umistabro ki mu'atinu kro hechad da'aviv Kanani. It makes sense to say that the exclusion is in the case where the father is a Kanani. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. We said above, niskairu, if they convert, so halach achar pogam shebishneim, you go by the one that is more blemished in terms of lineage. The Gemara says, b'mai, what exactly is the situation over here? Ilema b'mitzri shenasa amonis, if we're talking about a mitzri who marries an amonis, so my pogam shebishneim ispa, so what does it mean that there's a pogam? Amoni v'lo amonis. The halach is it's only by the males from Ammon and not by the females. Rashi over here says, Ilema b'mitzri shenasa amonis v'kamar d'shadinan zaram achara av, and we say we follow the father, meaning the mitzri. The afilu yolda nekeva asur ad gimel doros, and then we would say, even if the child that is born is a female, still it's going to be prohibited for 3 generations. V'lo shadinan labasar imo l'mishraya la'alter da'amoni v'lo amonis. We don't follow the mother because we say that the females from Ammon are usually fine, but then my pogam shebishneim mika, that can't be the case because that's not pogam shebishneim to mashma d'shneim pegumim, because that would mashma both of them have a blemish, but that's not true. Ela shezeh pogam mizeh, and just it sounds like one is worse than the other. But here, ho amonis lo peguma, the amonis is not peguma at all. Midi, not at all. The amoni chsiv v'lo amonis, because it says amoni v'lo amonis, so it can't be the case is a mitzri marries an amonis because the amonis would not be considered pogam in any way. And so the Gemara says, Ella rather ba'amoni shenasa mitzris. The case over here is, you have an ammoni that married a mitzris, so now in this case, they really are both pogam, as Rashi says. Ella ba'amoni shenasa mitzris to shneim pegumim, to mitzris rishona asura. Mitzris first generation is asura, and of course an ammoni is also asur. So then the halach is as follows, Izocher have, if the child is a male, so shadya basar ammoni. So then you make him follow the father, the ammoni, because the males from Ammon are actually asur forever. And in a keva have, but if the child is a female, so then we don't follow the ammoni because the ammoni should be totally permitted. You have to go by the pogam shebishneim, so shadya basar mitzris. So then she follows the mitzris because again the mitzris applies even to those who are females. Rashi over here says shadya basar ammoni v'yasar la'olam. He follows the ammoni, so then it's going to be asar forever. V'im nekevahi, but if it's a nekeva shadya basar mitzris, then it follows the mitzris v'tia mitzris shenia. Then she'll be a second generation mitzris v'asura liYisrael. She'll be asura to Yisrael. V'lo shdaya basar ammoni l'shtarui elialter. Don't let her follow the ammoni that she's permitted right away, misham ammonis, because then she'd be an ammonis and she'd be permitted. So again, you always follow the pogam shebishneim. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, mamzerin unesinin asurin. When it comes to mamzerim and it comes to nesinin, we'll see Rashi in a moment, they are asur. V'isuran isur olam, and that isur is forever. Echad zecharim v'echad nekevos. It applies both to males and females. Rashi over here says, what's nesinim? Givonim, that refers to the nation of the Givonim. Shenizgairu ba'orma b'mei Yoshua. They used trickery in order to convert in the days of Yoshua. Unesanim avodim lechotz v'yetzim v'shoavei mayim. And he made them that their servants, they were the people who chopped the wood and they drew the water. And the Gemara says, Amar Reish Lakish says, Mamzeres liachar asara doros muteres. If you have a mamzeres, so after 10 generations, she's mutter. Yolif asiri me'amoni umoavi. How do we know that? We learn it out from a Gzeira Shav of the word asiri. It says asiri by mamzer, and it also says asiri by amoni and moavi. Malahalon nekevos mutaros, just like over there, the nekevos are mutter. Like we said, amoni v'lo amonis, moavi v'lo moavis. Afkan nekevos mutaros. So too when it comes to mamzer, the nekevos are going to be mutaros. Imalahalon miyad. Now if you're going to say over there, it's immediately. The amonis is always permitted. Afkan miyad. So too over here, when it comes to mamzer, maybe the mamzeres should be permitted immediately. So the Gemara says, Ki ahani gzeira shava me'asiri v'elech. The gzeira shava works from the 10th generation and onward. Rashi over here says, Gomer asiri me'amoni, b'sifri ma'asiri ha'amor ba'amoni ad olam, af asiri ha'amor b'mamzir ad olam, hilkach ma'lahalan zucharim v'lo nekevos afkan. It says in the Sifri, just like when it says asiri ba'amoni, it doesn't really mean 10 generation, it means forever. So too when it says asiri by mamzer, it means forever. But also we learn the other way around for a leniency, just like over there by amoni, it's only the males. So too over here, it's only the males, not the females. Me'asiri va'elach, but it's only from the 10th generation and on. Tiad asara doros di isura de mamzer ksiv lekol migmar me'amoni de nekevos mutaros. Until 10 generations, which is what the isra is written by mamzer, it says till 10 generations. So you can't learn any permission from the case of Ammon that the nekevos should be mutter. To hamamzer mumzar mashma, because mamzer is mashma, there's a strange blemish, we've mentioned that earlier. V'afilu nekevos, it is mashma to include the females. Avol me'asiri va'elach, but when you're going from the 10th generation and on, the Yisura b'gzeira shava, the whole Isser is only because of the gzeira shava from the 10th generation and on, because really it says in the pasuk until 10 generations. We just learn out, just like by Ammon, it means to say forever, so to hear forever from a gzeira shava. Gzeira shava de Ammoni Moavi Yol, if it's just learned from the gzeira shava, to alav b'm mamzer ksiva, it's not written by mamzer that it goes on forever. Hilka chetera nami l'nekevos mina yol, if therefore the heter also for the nekevos by mamzer, we learn from there, and again it's going to be from the 10th generation and on. Do Amar, and we're going to say, as we'll say in a moment, don mina umina kidala kamon, that is a type of limud that we're about to discuss. And so the Gemara continues, V'anon tanan, but didn't we learn in our Mishnah against what Reish Lakish is saying? Because our Mishnah said, Mamzerim unesin and asurin v'isurin isar olam. It said, Mamzer and nesin, they're also forever. Echad zachar v'echad nekevos, it's the same by males and females. That's against what Reish Lakish says, who says that Mamzeres lachar asara doros is going to be mutaros. And so the Gemara answers, Lokash is not difficult. Ha kimando amar don mino umina. This one is following the opinion that says don mino umina. Ha kimando amar don mino v'uki biasra. And this is the one that follows the one who learns don mino v'uki biasra. And Rashi over here explains, Ha kimando amar don mino umina plugs of Rabbi Eliezer of Rabbi Yoshua b'ha'or v'harod. If this machlokes, whether we say don mino umina or don mino v'uki biasra, is a machlokes Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua and Chulin. Don mino umina means ki gamrinan milsa mi milsa b'gzeira shava. It means anytime we learn one thing from another with the gzeira shava, gamrinan lakula milsa mina, we learn the entire thing from that source. And the other way of learning is don mina v'uki biasra. You learn from there, but you place it in its context. Lamai de tzrichi gamrinan, meaning for what we need, that's what we learn. Lamai de lo tzrichinan mukminan biasra, but for whatever we don't need, we just keep in the context of that particular issue. And now Rashi explains, and so over here, when we're making this gzeira shava, what is the gzeira shava that there is by mamzer? Lo ksiv ad olam, it doesn't say forever. Uvi Ammoni Moavi ksiv ad olam, and by Ammoni and Moavi, it says forever. V'alfinan mamzer me Ammoni b'gzeira shava, and now we're learning mamzer from Ammoni with a gzeira shava. Kidatani b'sifri devei Rav, like it says in the Sifri devei Rav, nemar kan asiri v'nemar lamato asiri, it says asiri by both of them. Ma asiri ha'amar lamata ad olam, just like the asiri it says over there is forever. Af asiri ha'amar kan ad olam, so to the asiri over here is forever. In other words, the main point of the gzeira shava is to tell you that when it comes to mamzer, it doesn't say by mamzer that it's forever, but we're learning out from Ammon and Moab through the gzeira shava that it's forever. And so now Rashi explains, Reish Lakish holds, Kiman Amar don mina umina, you learn from there and from there. Meaning, Malahalan ad olam afkan ad olam. Number one, you're learning just like over there it's forever, so to over here it's forever. Umina, and also you learn from there, Malahalan zecharim v'lo nekevos. Again, if you're learning over here, you're learning from Ammon and Moab to mamzer, so just like by Ammon and Moab it's males and not females, afkan zecharim v'lo nekevos. You learn that as well, and you say so to over here by mamzer, it applies to zecharim and not nekevos. Midor asiri va'elachu degamrin, we learn that specifically from the 10th generation and on. To kol asara lo itzrichu lan l'melech b'gzeira shava. Like Rashi said before, for the first 10 generations, there's no need for the gzeira shava anyway. V'tana di don savar, now our Tan in the Mishnah holds, command Amar don mino v'yuki biasra, like the one who says you learn from there, but you place it in the context over here. Meaning to say, don mino malahalan ad olam af mamzer ad olam, just like by Ammon and Moab it's forever, so to mamzer it's forever. V'uki biasra k'demei ikara, but now you place it in its place like originally, yud doros dekra echad zecharim v'echad nekevos, just like the 10 generations apply to male and female. Dechsev mamzer mumzar, like we said, it's mamzer, it means to say, it's like a strange blemish, and a strange blemish would apply to both. Hachanami ad olam, so too over here it applies forever. The maisinam b'gzeira shava echad zecharim v'echad nekevos. This ad olam that we're saying it's forever, that we're bringing from a gzeira shava, will continue to apply to both males and females. That's how we understand the machlokas over here. Kach shamati v'chein ikra. This is what I heard, and this is the ikra explanation. V'yeshem afarish la b'lashon acher. Rashi says there are other explanations to understand this don mina mina and how to apply it over here. And the Gemara continues, Shalu es Rabbi Eliezer, they asked Rabbi Eliezer the following question, Mamzeres le'achar asara dori mao, if you have a mamzeres after 10 generations, what is the halacha? Do we say it's permitted or not? Amar Lahem, he said to them, Mi'iten li dor shlishi v'atarenu, who's going to give me even a third generation that I can make that pure? And the Gemara says, Alma kosavar mamzera lo chai. You see that what really Rabbi Eliezer is saying is that he holds mamzer is not really able to survive, is not really able to live. V'chein amar Rav Huna mamzera lo chai. And that's the same thing that Rav Huna says, mamzera is not going to sustain themselves. But the Gemara says, V'anon tanan mamzer nasur and visur nisar olam. But our Mishnah says the opposite of mamzer is asur, and it's asur forever. It sounds like they can keep going. And so the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Zeira. Rabbi Zeira says, L'didim efarshali minei Rabbi Yehuda. To me, it was explained in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, the yediyah chai, if they're known about, if we know that the individual is a mamzer, then they're able to sustain themselves, live, and perpetuate in other generations. The lo yediyah, but if they're not known, lo chai, so then they end up not surviving, because the idea is that we don't want that they're going to marry other people and create more mamzeros in the world. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not allow such a mamzer to survive if he's not known. And finally, the Gemara says, the yediyah v'lo yediyah, if it's known but not known, meaning to say there's a suspicion but it's not known for sure, so atzlosa dari chai tvei lo chai, so for 3 generations they can survive, more than that they cannot survive. And Rashi over here explains, mi'it and li dor shlishi, can I get even a 3rd generation? Kolomar davar sheyefshero, you're asking about a 10th generation mamzeres, it's not even possible. You're not even going to get 3 generations. Lo chai is not going to survive, meaning to say, shelo yitzmu ksherim b'dorosav, the mamzer doesn't survive because we don't want kosher people to get mixed up in terms of the lineage and to marry them. And so then the Gemara said, mamzer diya call, if everybody knows this person's a mamzer, but birur certainly, so chayu, he will survive, v'dorosav, and he'll have generations, to lo mitzmi be, because there's not going to be any mixing of the mamzer with people who are kosher. But the lo yediya klal lo chai, but if somebody's not known, they're not going to survive. Afilu hu shelo yisak sheira, he's not even going to survive himself, because we don't want him to marry a woman that's a kshera. And diyadiya v'lo yediya, it's a lost dari. When it comes to somebody who sort of, there's a suspicion, it will last for 3 generations. To zihiri inshi, because that's how much people can be careful. Chai, he'll be able to survive. Tvei lo chai, but more than 3 generations, they won't survive. To came to lav davar baru mishtacha milsa, because since this is not a certainty, it becomes forgotten, and therefore by 3rd generation already, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make sure that they die out. And the Gemara continues, Ahu dehave b'shivavuse de Rabbi Ami, achar zoleh de mamzera have. So there was one that was in the neighborhood of Rabbi Ami, and he announced about that person. He publicized this person as a mamzer. So bachi v'yazil, so the person started crying about it. So Amar lei, so he said to him, Chayim nasati lach, I actually gave you life, again for this very reason. The fact that you're now well known as a mamzer means that you'll be able to survive. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Chana Barada. Rav Chana Barada says, Nesinim, when it came to the Nesinim, David Gazar Aleim, the Gezer against them was made by David HaMelech. Shenemar, like the Pasuk says, Vayikra HaMelech la Givonim, it says that the king called the Givonim, Vayomer Aleim, he said to them, Vahagivonim lo b'nei Yisrael, Hema v'gomer, and it says the Givonim, they really weren't part of Bnei Yisrael. And the Gemara now explains, my time of Gazar Aliyah, what's the reason why he made the Gezer against them? Because the Pasuk says, Vayhi Rov b'mei David shalosh shanim, shana achar shana. It says that there was a famine in the days of David, 3 years, 1 year after the other. Shana Rishona Amar Lehem, the first year he said to them, Shema ovdei avodas kochavim yesh b'chem. Maybe you're serving idols. Maybe that's why we're being punished with the Rov. Like the Pasuk says, V'avaratem Elohim acherim v'shtachavisam lehem v'yotzer sashamayim v'lo yem motor v'gomer. The Pasuk says, if you serve idols, then the heavens will be closed up and there won't be rain. So Badku v'lo matzah, they searched after that and they didn't find that there was avodah zarah. Shni Amar Lahem, in the 2nd year he said to them, Shema ovrei avera yesh b'chem. Maybe there's averas that you're doing in terms of znus. Techsiv, like the pasuk says, Vayimnu revivim u'malko shlo hayom metzach ishazon hayolach v'gomer. It talks about znus when it talks about the prevention of the malkush, of the rain. Badku v'lo matzu, they checked, they didn't find. Shlishis Amar Lahem, then the 3rd year he said to them, Shema poskei tzedakah baravim yesh b'chem ve'nos them. Maybe you have people who are promising to give tzedakah baravim, but they're not actually giving the tzedakah. Techsiv, like the pasuk says, Nesiim v'ruach v'geshamayim ish mishalel b'misas sheker. Person's going to praise himself or get praised because he says he's going to give, but it's really a lie, and that's what causes geshamai, and that's what causes that there's no rain. But v'lo matzah, they checked, and they didn't find such a thing. So Amar, so he said, Ein hadavar toloi elabi, the whole thing must be dependent upon me. Miyad, so immediately, Vayvakesh David es pnei Hashem, David sought out the face of Hashem. Maihi, what does that mean? Amar Reish Lakish says, Sheshoal b'urim v'tumim, that he asked the urim v'tumim, that's what it means, he sought out Hashem. My mashma, how do you see that from the pasuk? Amar Rebbe Lazar says, Asya pnei, because it says pnei Hashem, and we learn out from pnei, Ksiv hacha Vayvakesh David es pnei Hashem, Uksiv hasa v'shalo b'mishpat ha'urim lifnei Hashem, talks about the urim v'tumim also, lifnei Hashem. So that's how we understand that he asked the urim v'tumim. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, Vayomer Hashem el Shol vel beis hadomim al asher hemis hagivonim. So Hashem said it's because of Shol and because of the fact that he killed the Givonim. And what does that mean? El Shol shalon nispat ka'alacha. The first thing that was done wrong was Shol was not given a proper eulogy. V'el beis hadomim al asher hemis hagivonim. And then it says it's because Shol killed the Givonim. V'chihechon matzino b'Shol shehemis hagivonim. Where do we find that Shol killed the Givonim? Rather, what it means is Elamitoch shaharag Nov ir kohanim. What it really means is since Shol killed out the city of Nov, which was the city of the Kohanim, shoyumaspikim lohem mayim umazon, and they were providing them with water and with food. So malo lavakos of kilo hargan. So the pasuk considers it as if he killed them. But the Gemara continues, it doesn't make sense. Katav el Shol shelo nispat kalacha. First, there's a claim that Shol wasn't eulogized properly. Then v'katav al asher hemis hagivonim. Then there's a claim against Shol that he killed out the Givonim, or again, he killed out the city of Nov ir kohanim, who provided the Givonim with water and food. That doesn't make sense. And so the Gemara says, yes, the Amar Reish Lakish, because Reish Lakish says, Ma'id chsiv, what does the pasuk mean when it says, V'akshu es Hashem kolan ve'oret, seek out Hashem, all the humble of the earth, Asher mishpato palu, that have executed justice. And we understand the pasuk to mean Ba'asher mishpato, when there is justice, sham palu, there are the good deeds. In other words, even though we're carrying out justice, so to speak, against what Shaul did, we also have to mention over there the good deeds of Shaul HaMelech. And so the Gemara continues, Amar David says, Shaul nafkuluhu, with regards to Shaul, there has already passed. And we'll take a look at a few Rashis over here. David Gazer Alein K'dichsiv Hagivonim Lo Mibnei Yisrael Hema. The pasuk means to say, Kilom Re'inam Ru'uyim Lava B'kal. The Givonim, they're not fit to marry into the community. That's exactly what the pasuk means. Ish Misal Mitas Sheker Shaposek Ve'nosin Gorim Latziris Kashamim. Somebody who says he's going to give money to tzedakah and doesn't give the money, that causes the rain to be withheld. Kohanim hayamaspikin lemazon lagivonim. The Kohanim used to give food to the Givonim, sheichot ve'etzim v'shavim mayim lemizbeach, because they used to chop the wood and draw the water for the mizbeach, and so the Kohanim provided them with food. And then it said, Katava HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chavot Shol shelo nispat ka'alacha. First, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is claiming on behalf of the honor of Shol that he wasn't eulogized properly. V'hadar Katava b'pornusei, and then it's talking about claiming a punishment against Shol. The Shol asher himis, that Shol did something wrong, he killed out the city of Nov. Ba'asher mishpatu b'makom shedonim ha'adam sham mazkir and poel tzidkosov. And so the Gemara answered, in the same place that we judge a person, we have justice against them, that's where we also mention their good deeds, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Tes Amud Aleph.